I was looking for an education that would transform my mind.
The opportunity to study with UOL and obtain a world-class degree is something that really attracted me. And I get to do it in Singapore, so I kind of get the best of both worlds.
This global connection that I get from University of London really adds value to what I'm learning and gives me a global edge.
My undergraduate years with UOL was my best time of my life.
For me this past semester, and it's been interesting learning how to incorporate technology with education.
It was tough keeping track of all these submissions and assignments I had coming up. I started using Google Calendar to mark all of them for a month in advance and creating alerts that helped a great deal.
I would say the most challenging thing, besides not having your peers around, is the grave lack of interaction with your tutors. However, there's a great way to overcome it. Just be active in your learning and your communication skills. So, be it Zoom calls, be it Skype calls, be it emails, you can make it happen. You're in control now because everything is tech.
Learning and the active involvement of the support staff to smooth out the journey has been really amazing. I know my academic advisor can be easily reached out to.
I think SIAM prepared students very well for this period of time. There are dialogue sessions where we can share about our problems and find out more about the job market. And also workshops were shifted to the virtual platforms, which is an important source of education for students.
I thought coming here to Singapore with nobody with me, like no parents and no friends, I don't know anyone, I'll be homesick.
It was hard for me to be independent, adjusted to not only to the environment, but also how to be able to, live on my own.
I thought this would be a very robotic country. I feel like the environment is quite stressful.
Singapore is very harsh.
Most stereotyping comments about Singapore is that people are proud and they are reserved. So when I come here, I thought it's like that too. It's totally different from the comments that I've heard. From the orientation day, I met a lot of people who are still my best friends. When I enter SIM, I go to Singapore, I have a lot of friends, I gain a lot of experience, I don't really feel homesick.
Singapore is like a melting pot for different culture, so I can interact with a lot of people with different backgrounds.
Singapore has a very close-knit environment. That's the kind of inspiration for me to, get adjusted very quickly.
The life here actually is colorful. I can do anything I want, like be myself.
Singapore is very modern.
Everything is just so organized.
It's a really beautiful country, it's very clean. I'm very welcoming here.
Not feel some culture shock. The pace is kind of the same as Hong Kong.
Efficient, traveling from one place to another. The convenience.
Safetyness. Is it safetyness? No, safety.
You can come back home
lately. We don't have to worry about mom calling back, hey, come back right now, it's too late. There's nothing like that.
The first thing I noticed was how green everything is. Back home, and all you see is brown and shades of grey. It just changes everything.
I always thought it's this small dot on the globe, and there's not much to do here. Only until I moved here, I got to know there's a lot.
My English has improved since I came to SIM in Singapore. In China, you can always speak English and practice it.
I'm a food lover.
The food.
Food.
There's a lot of Filipino restaurants like Jollibee.
The hawker centers, I've been everywhere.
Vegetarian food, chicken rice, mala, roti prata.
Singapore is like my second home now.
Singapore is home away from home, so I don't find myself feeling homesick ever.
Oke, good afternoon everyone. Thank you so much yang udah join. Beberapa nama saya familiar juga ya, udah sering join acara kita. But today is so special because we have alumni from SIM. He's really good teman-teman ya. Jadi kalau bisa ini sepanjang kurang lebih 1 jam ke depan ya acara kita 1 jam ke depan. Ini akan ada semacam sharing knowledge dari our alumni. Di sini ada Indra Sentanu. Lalu nanti setelah itu akan kita lanjutkan dengan pengenalan scholarship model yang baru ya. Jadi kalau teman-teman sebelum ini sudah pernah dengar scholarship yang punya SIM is a full scholarship for this diploma and anything. But this is the new animal in SIM. So stay together until events is. And jadi biar teman-teman bisa memutuskan nanti mau ambil scholarship yang mana gitu ya, pastinya yang the best. Nah, terus juga nanti kita ada info-info penting untuk ke depan SIM bakal mengadakan acara-acara apa lagi. Jadi mungkin aja teman-teman sudah cukup tahu tentang SIM, tapi mungkin masih punya teman atau saudara yang belum tahu tentang SIM. Nanti kita akan ada acara-acara selanjutnya. So stay tune terus teman-teman. Oke. Setelah ini acaranya akan langsung sharing knowledge dari our alumni kita ya, namanya Pak Indra, di mana dia ini lulusan dari UOL teman-teman, ambil di Economics and Finance. Nah, kalau bagi teman-teman yang suka finance ini nanti bisa dicek kerjaannya sekarang sebagai senior banking, senior investment ya, analis ya di sini. Jadi memang ini jabatan yang bagus teman-teman ya, nggak segampang itu. Saya tahu persis banget dari kita lulus sampai misalnya pengalaman kerja berapa lama bisa sampai di titik ini is not really easy gitu, yang nggak cuman langsung set langsung nyampe. Pasti ada jalanan yang harus dia lalui. Seperti apa jalanannya, seperti apa yang dia lalui, bagaimana dia bisa overcome dari situation yang mungkin wah ini nggak pernah ada sebelumnya nih, saya harus belajar dan lain sebagainya. Bagaimana dia bisa lewat dan akhirnya sampai di titik seperti ini. Yuk mari kita dengar dulu gimana sharing knowledge dari Pak Indra. Silakan Pak Indra, waktu dan tempatnya. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you Pak Wilson. Yeah, maybe I'll share my screen first. One sec. Ya, mungkin sedikit lebih ya perkenalan diri saya sendiri. Nama saya Indra. Saya sudah di JP Morgan sebagai investment banking as an analyst for about 3 years now. About to move up to associate position. So within the firm, within investment banking, what I do is I cover large transactions in Indonesia mainly. So whenever you see some mergers and acquisition happening, someone in capital markets, be it equity or debt, issue a bond, do an IPO, I might be in one of those transactions. For example, one of the biggest was when MUFG acquired Bank Danamon in Indonesia, and I think about 2 years ago when Astra sold their stake in Bank Permata. So I was involved in those deals. So my deals revolved around more of a private transaction rather than what the public transaction, what you see in the market, stocks going up and down. I don't really, delve into that. Ya, jadi di pekerjaan saya ini ya, obviously, if you think about it, bakal banyak banget technical skills yang akan digunakan sehari-hari, obviously, a lot of financial analysis and all those stuff. So maybe why don't I share a little bit of my view on technical skills, hard skills, and soft skills. What are those? I think just broadly speaking, hard skills are your technical skills. When you learn about finance, learn about investment, there's a lot of calculation behind it. And of course, to learn this, you can go the most conventional route. You go to a formal education, like go into SIM, like I did, taking University of London. There are also other partner universities in SIM, like RMIT. I think in the video you saw just now, there's also University of Birmingham, Buffalo as well. So there's a lot of this kind of formal education that you can go to, that you can learn. I would say the foundation that can lay. There can be a good base for you to learn more in the future. And then as a next step, I will say, and depending which career you want to choose, you can get professional certification. So like for me myself, I'm taking the CFA. That's a Chartered Financial Analysis. Of course, that will be really relevant in my career. And different career paths that you're looking towards into will have different kinds of professional certification. For example, if you're thinking more of becoming an accountant, you can think of taking a CPA or ICAEW. And then I know, if you're in startups and in a business development or sales area, you can take Salesforce certification. If you are in, computer engineering, there's obviously some certification in certain language that you can learn and pick up. So there's all of this professional certification that, if you're interested in that field or in that career path, try to speak more to, the industry practitioners, what sort of skills do they have, what sort of certification that they took, because this is, an edge over the other candidates, right? Other candidates, maybe they only have their bachelor degree or their degrees from university. You have that and this certification. And then of course, if that is still not enough, as I know, a lot of this as you go on the job is still not enough. You can take informal education, as in it can be as easy, as simple as going to YouTube, listening to videos about, for me, investment, about M&A, how people do things. So it can be as simple as that, or you can take more structured courses like from Coursera, Udemy, or if you're in Indonesia, also Ruang Guru. So this kind of the technical skills that I would say it's something that needs to be taught first, and then you can apply it in your life or in your career. On the other end of the spectrum, there's soft skills as well, and this is, I would say, something that yes, it can be taught in a classroom setting, but you can never master it if you don't actually apply it. What are these? It's typically more of your relationship and how you relate to other people, your environment, and your peers, right? So stuff like networking, critical thinking, how you solve problems, leadership, teamwork, time management, so on and so forth. And if you think about it, right, which is more important? Is it hard skills? Is it soft skills? I think the answer is it depends on which career path you're going to, and what is the nature of your career. I would say if your career is, for example, if I take an example, if you are a computer engineer, software engineer rather, I would say hard skills matter more than soft skills, because you really need to know your language. But let's say if you're in sales, obviously your soft skills needs to be in the forefront, right? You need to be able to relate to people, relate to your clients, and be able to make your sales basically. So it really depends on which career path you're taking, and second is it depends on what level you are. The higher you go, for example, like me, I'm an analyst. At the start, it's mostly just crunching numbers, you know, a lot of Excel files, a lot of PowerPoint. As I go up, as I take more responsibility and, you know, becoming more senior, I will take leadership in, you know, the more of a junior analyst, as well as, you know, taking client relationship more and more. So that's that as well. Your level of position in your career also matters, whether hard skills or soft skills are more important. So that's more in general. So I think the next question that I want to cover is how did I do it? How did I apply all of this? And what was my path from the moment I started in SIM until now, basically. So as Pak Wilson mentioned, I was enrolled in SIM UL in the economics and finance. So by nature, it's more focused on statistics, quantitative analysis, and macroeconomics. Right. So I think back then I was a hardcore economist. I like to you know read the news and see how the world goes, especially look at the US. And then I became especially interested in it when, you know, the election of Trump took place back then. And then, yeah, so of course, that's a formal education, right? That's where I basically learned most of my technical skills as a base. And then as I enrolled in SIM, of course, there's a lot of extracurricular activities, out of class activities that I do. One of it is joining the INZIM musical that's organized by the Indonesian community in SIM. So that's where I learned, you know, start to learn my soft skills, right? You know, being able to work in different teams, and it's quite a large organization. I think it was a production of about 110 people. You know, being in different teams, collaborating together and making a great musical. So I was in the creative and advertising division. So I was the one in charge in directing all the video and all the films that we need to make, for example, the trailers and everything for the musical. So that's that as well. I don't really just crunch numbers. I just do a little bit of video. And then, you know, of course, it's not always fun and games. I think in the summer of 2016, after my first year, I enrolled in this analyst training program in SIM. So I think it's still going on, I think until now even. So what it is, it's essentially puts you in the shoes of a research analyst. So if you see the news, right, for example, stocks go down by 20%. The news, the you know, news will bring in an analyst from some research house to opine on it. So that's research analyst, right, on the public side. So they will analyze what happens to stocks, what happens to, in relation to the economy, stuff like that. So I was put in that shoes. So that's, I will say, where my focus shift from, strictly speaking, economy more towards financial analysis, investment, and all those, right? And I will say this is where I was taking my knowledge, base knowledge from classroom, and then applying it for the first time in you know, in a simulated setting. And then after I do that, I joined this CFA Research Challenge. So it's a Chartered Financial Analyst Research Challenge that's actually worldwide. So I joined in the school-wide division, you know, applying my knowledge from the training program, and you know, trying to apply my skills, and then, you know, hopefully win it. So I did win the school round, and then I represented SIM with my team to present at the national level in Singapore to the CFA board. So what we did was we had to analyze a company that a subject company that they gave. I think back then mine was a Cord Life Group. So what they do is when the parents give birth to a baby, they take the umbilical cord and then they preserve it for stem cells purposes in the future. Quite interesting, but yeah. So that was the CFA Research Challenge, applying my knowledge in a more of a competition kind of setting. And then my extracurricular also adds up when I joined the SIM Economic Society. So when I joined the SIM Economic Society, initially I was part of the research team, creating articles, researching what happens in the current economy, and my coverage was primarily US. But as I move up within the organization, they realize I'm the kind of person that likes to talk more. So they think I don't really fit in the research division. So they moved me up to become the VP of marketing and communication. So that covers corporate development and marketing as well. So I'm back to making videos and everything, all those. So, and what was interesting for that society that I joined, I had a chance to organize a conference where I invited a lot of industry practitioners and academia. So I came into contact with a lot of industry experts, people from GIC, a lot of research houses, invited a few professors from NUS. Yeah, so it was a really good experience, putting my networking skills in practice, gaining a lot of insights, gaining a lot of advice as well from the panelists as well that I met along the way. And then I also joined in SIM this peer assisted learning program where I facilitated a group of students as well in SIM, where they need help more in certain subjects. For my case, it was statistics. So I did that for about 2 years. So I took on about 2 terms of the program, and that led me. All that led me in the summer of 2017 to apply for a summer internship in JP Morgan. So I got in, and initially my job was very different from what I'm doing now. It was more of a internal project management kind of job, where I will take on internal projects, and then I will lead the projects, talk to different stakeholders, try to get a project across the line. So that's more of what I did. And then, beyond that, of course, I graduated in 2018 because it's a 3-year program. And then, beyond that, up until now, I'm still doing my CFA program. Still period of few years in division in JP Morgan. When I came in, it was actually for a different kind of it's still from different job within a different team, but call it luck, call it being in the right place at the right time. There was an opening in investment banking, so I took it, and then I'm here still. Difficulty was, if you know the program from SIMUL, economics and finance, you don't really learn accounting at all. So going into investment banking, I had the basic sense of what accounting is, but I had to learn everything on the job. So what I mentioned earlier about informal education, literally going to YouTube and learning about how stuff works, that I actually did that. The combination of that, and of course, you can always learn on the job, right? You can ask your seniors, you can ask your mentors over in the organization you're in, and yeah, that will really help you along the way, and it definitely has helped me. And all of this journey, right? It definitely helped the fact that I was studying in Singapore, and as a background, I've been studying in Singapore since I was 14 years old, I think. Yeah, that's when I came over to Singapore. So I finished my junior high here in Canisius, if any one of you know. And then I move on to Singapore to take O-level and A-level, which is a high school equivalent. So along the years, when the time I spent in Singapore, I learned how to, as the video mentioned as well, which is correct, I learned how to interact with different cultures. And true enough, when you get to a organization, especially let's say organization like JP Morgan, where there's a lot of people from different backgrounds, you don't really get the culture shock, because the culture shock was, I got a culture shock way back when I was, when I first arrived in Singapore. So didn't take me, it wasn't really hard for me to, interact with people, because my day-to-day job, I interact with people from Singapore, from Hong Kong, India, all over the place, even sometimes in the US. Yes, I have to wake up at 2 a.m. to talk to people in the US, talk to people in the UK. So, and it really depends on which company that you may end up with, but, having that sensitivity towards a diverse background and culture, it's definitely a plus. And, having studied in Singapore, I also had more of a international mindset. So you can take a lot of learnings that, being in Singapore, being independent for so many years. And then when I start to work, unknowingly I also become independent. So a lot of things that I do and I learn on the job, it's more of a what people call autodidact. So you just learn everything by yourself. Of course, I can always ask my peers, my seniors, but everybody's just so busy. So I think a lot of this journey, like just a melting pot of factors that helped me, helped shape me, and prepare me for the job that I'm in. I think, I think that's pretty much about it. I was thinking more of letting the audience to, raise questions and make this more of an open dialogue session.
Oke, thank you Pak Indra. Saya tertarik pingin tanya ini dulu nih. So basically since 2018 ya, up until now, masih mau mengambil CFA program, Harvard Financial Analyst. Why? Kenapa masih mau ambil CFA? Kan bisa aja kayak I've done a lot of many things back then, I'm doing internship blah blah, but kenapa masih mau nambah sertifikasi? Selain tadi kan memang hard skill, tapi kenapa pilihannya CFA?
Ya, ya ini sebenarnya lebih ke ini kan apa? What I've learned is what I learned by myself. It gets me to the right outcome. Tapi the process, it might not be correct. So I'll never know unless I learn about it properly in the right setting. Dan kenapa itu harus? I'm in a field of I'm in a career where it's a high stakes. I work with large companies and work around with large sum of money. So a lot of this I have to get right, and I can't second guess the things that I do. So this is, for me, it's quite important. The other part is I just have the the thirst and the drive to keep knowing what because the thing is, you don't know what you don't know, right? Unless you start to look for it. So what better way to know what you don't know by taking this professional certification that is world recognized worldwide by people in this field, like I think a lot of people, especially those investment community, will definitely take the CFA program. Some may say you don't need to, some may say, oh yes, let's just take it. But at the end of the day, if you're comparing someone that has that certification compared to someone that doesn't have it, it's a different kind of worldview.
Bisa dibilang sebenarnya if you have CFA certification, salary-nya pasti lebih bagus.
No, belum tentu juga lah. Cuman it helps in your application process, but it doesn't guarantee you, high salary. You getting in, you being accepted to a job doesn't guarantee you that, but it helps. Definitely in terms of if you look in the industry, let's say in the equity research field, right? A lot of people have CFA, so that in itself has it sets a precedent, right, for a lot of people to have that kind of certification as well.
Jadi sekarang sudah PACE level berapa nih, Pak? Udah level, saya tahu ada 3 level, karena saya juga orang finance, pasti ada 3, emang ada 3 level, sekarang sudah di berapa? Di Janjan sudah 3 nih, Pak Indra?
Nah, saya lulus level 1 di 2018.
Oke.
Wah, lalu mau
baru
ambil,
lulus sudah dapat CFA level 1, Pak, ya berarti? UOL selesai?
Ya, karena saya belajar sambil year 3, belajar, terus begitu lulus langsung exam. Lalu mau ambil level 2 di 2019 tapi terlalu sibuk jadi defer ke 2020, makin sibuk jadi defer. This year is a bit fine, jadi I'm taking level 2 in August.
Wow, good luck Pak, mudah-mudahan lolos Pak ya. Wah, tapi jadi bagi teman-teman yang mungkin nggak begitu paham mengenai dunia finance, jadi kalau mau dapat CFA level 1, biasanya orang itu do the preparation dulu sebenarnya ya. Jadi kayak misalnya biasanya saya preparation dulu. Even though saya sudah lulus kuliah, biasanya ada preparation dulu singkat selama berapa kali ketemu, dan baru ambil CFA level 1. Karena yang saya ingat itu kalau untuk ngambil sertifikasi CFA itu 1 tahun hanya ada 1 kali atau 2 kali shotnya.
Betul.
Kalau misalnya gagal harus coba lagi di periode berikutnya, bener Pak ya?
Betul. Dan ya level 1 itu
juga nggak murah Pak ya, kan untuk tes itu nggak murah harganya kan?
Betul, lumayan. Ya dan memang kalau level 1 itu dianjurkan final year di university ya, karena a lot of the topics covered itu overlap. Jadi belajar untuk 2 exam in one go lah, in a sense, right? Tapi subsequently itu lebih bagus kalau udah kerja, karena banyak yang pertanyaan tuh lebih application.
Kasus-kasus Pak ya biasanya pertanyaannya.
Betul, which you will only understand for the most part if you have experienced it or if you have dealt it in your career.
Ya, menarik Pak ya. Ini di sini juga saya lihat Pak Indra juga sebagai PEL leader gitu ya. Berarti kan dari sisi leadership berarti sudah mulai dibentuk oleh Pak Indra semasa masih kuliah di SIM ya berarti ya. Ada nggak sih maksudnya selama jadi PEL leader itu kesulitan-kesulitan untuk yang akhirnya setelah mengalami kesulitan sebagai PEL leader sekarang jadi untuk handle colleague atau misalnya ternyata subordinates di bawah gitu kan, karena PEL leader harus atur-atur. Nah itu membantu nggak sih Pak dulu jadi PEL leader, ada value yang dibawa nggak Pak?
Yes, definitely. Kan sekarang saya sendiri udah senior, jadi biasa di different projects itu saya mentor the junior analyst, dan teknik-teknik not teaching skills, facilitation skills untuk learning mereka. A lot of it I took from the peer assisted learning experience that I had. Karena it's always better for you to learn yourself rather than people teaching you. Different people, have their own way of learning. Dan orang itu lebih bisa internalize, lebih bisa nangkep kalau dia sendiri yang ngerti sendiri. So I help people to reach that point rather than pushing them to that point.
Nice, seru banget nih. Sebelumnya bagi teman-teman yang mau ada pertanyaan bisa ketik di chat box atau bisa juga open mic-nya ya kalau mau. Saya kasih kesempatan mungkin 1-2 orang ya sebelum kita lanjut ke sesi berikutnya. Tapi nanti kalau mau tanya-tanya sama Pak Indra masih bisa ya. Jadi di sesi berikutnya tulis aja di chat box supaya nanti bisa tetap kita jawab gitu. Kita masih punya waktu juga soalnya teman-temannya. Adakah mungkin dari teman-teman yang mau bertanya atau mungkin dari Pak Johan? Ada mau pertanyaan, Pak?
Ya, mungkin pertama kali terima kasih ya Indra sudah share ke kita dengan teman-teman kita. Dan sangat luar biasa experience dan journey-nya kalau teman-teman lihat ya journey Pak Indra ini ya sewaktu masih kuliah lagi sudah mencari info untuk kesempatan bekerja. Di sini kita bisa lihat internship yang sudah dijalankan, dan tadi Indra juga sudah share ya sewaktu sekolah juga kuliah masuk ke CFA level 1 ya kan sewaktu sekolah. Nah, jadi ini adalah salah satu sifat yang dimana kita tidak mau being left out ya. We prepare secepat mungkinnya sewaktu kita masih kuliah ya kan. Nah, kuliah itu adalah jangka waktu yang cukup lama juga ya, 3 tahun. Right? Nah, selama 3 tahun itu kita harus melihat apa yang kita bisa meraihkan selama 3 tahun. What kind of progression yang kita bisa dapat ya dari kuliah ini, waktu kuliah. Nah, pastinya kita akan sibuk dengan kerja-kerja kuliah, ya mungkin ada project, ada masuk CCA, kemudian nanti cari kesempatan yang lain seperti Indra ini ambil CFA, masuk ke SHM Economic Society juga, gitu. So Indra mungkin bisa share nggak ya Indra di SHM Economic Society ini what kind of things that you experience here? What do you learn in this society?
Yeah, I mean, untuk di SHM Economic Society yang paling obviously, I learn a lot of economics research. Being an economic society, our main focus is reading the economics news, analyzing it, and just publishing it to the student body, because we do have a website. I think that up until now the members are still contributing to articles that they release whenever there's newsworthy economic events that happens. I think back then I covered the Obama administration and Trump administration, which is quite a hot topic back then because Trump was just elected around that period.
Yeah.
That's one. Kedua, yang tadi juga ada di-mention, itu organized conference. Jadi SHM Economic Society itu ada annual conference, di mana kita invite panelists, be it industry practitioners, kayak tadi saya bilang dari GIC, for example. I think we invited Dr. Prakash Kannan, head of economics of GIC, atau academia. For example, I think we invited Professor Danny Kwa from NUS School of Public Policy. So being able to organize all of these conferences, and then also in my capacity in the society, I was the VP of marketing of VP Marketing Communication. So what I did was I led the corporate development team to reach out to these panelists, inviting them to come to our conferences, to come to our events. So along the way, of course, I have to meet them, talk to them, converse with them. So it helped with my networking skills, definitely. And then lastly as well, we don't just organize conference, karena kita itu bagian dari Singapore Economic Society. So Singapore Economic Society itu ada di tiap university, ada Economic Society sendiri seperti NUS, NTU, SMU. Jadi kita juga ikut event-event Singapore Economic Society, and I think usually we help out with their annual conference as well, as part of the subcommittee. So we help with the actual day execution, if they need help, let's say with being ushers or with the logistics, because it's on a volunteer basis. But what you gain from it is access to all of this esteemed industry practitioners, academia, that because they invited a lot of people. Usually they invite ministers, they invite CEOs. So it's a really good opportunity for you to network with people.
Ya, sangat luar biasa ya, ya teman-teman ya, dengan kita mendengar Indra sharing ya. So selama kuliah Indra went through not only just building academic excellence untuk dirinya sendiri, just to graduate well dari program University of London, tetapi menggunakan waktu ini dengan banyak aktivitas ya. Yang tadi Indra bilang, economic society, peer assisted learning, dan saya sangat tertarik dengan activity SIM Economic Society yang Indra tadi barusan cerita ke kita, right? Nah itu kan bukan sahaja knowing about the economic or being part of the society, but juga menjalankan atau coordinate conferences, ketemu dengan orang-orang yang mungkin delegate gitu kan. Jadi itu kan skills yang baru ya Indra ya. Organization skills, communication skills, mungkin how to deal with delegates gitu. Nah ini kan sesuatu yang kita tidak belajar di kelas ya Indra ya. Kita belajarnya sewaktu mengambil CCA ini atau society ini. Nah jadi teman-teman, kalau kita mau jadi sukses ya, itu sukses tidak datang begitu saja. Alright? So kita harus mencari ya, dan kalau kita mau a very good future, kita harus membina dari awal. And this is what I see in Indra, di mana dari awal tuh dari 2015, all this activity yang Indra jalankan. Nah, sewaktu nanti kalau Indra send a resume atau CV ke perusahaan, ya perusahaan itu akan pasti melihat semua skills yang ada di sini melalui aktiviti-aktiviti yang Indra jalankan. Ya, karena perusahaan tahu kalau tadi dibilang ya organize society economic society event among university with the delegate, itu kita sudah tahu oh itu project yang sangat luar biasa. Ya, kemudian peer assisted learning itu sebagai apa? Bisa menjadi mentor, motivator, tutor, ya kan? Nah, jadi Indra, dengan banyak aktivitas yang Indra jalankan sewaktu kuliah, how do you balance your time ya? Dengan kewajiban sekolah dan kemudian kewajiban aktivitas ini semua, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of experiment along the way, because it's essentially just time management, right? I think at the start it was quite rocky. I can't really balance my time.
Pernah breakdown nggak waktu itu?
No, I didn't come to that. Karena there's a lot of support as well. So of course, I've in all of these activities, I always have a support system. For example, like in the Seapersons Challenge, I have a team with me, right? So I didn't work by myself. Kalau misalnya saya lagi capek atau lagi apa, bisa minta teman yang lain, oh can you cover, can you help, then they're fine. Of course at the start it was quite hard, balancing all of this, because I still like to have fun, have personal time. It's not all just work 100% of the time. Yeah. You will go crazy if you just work, as I know now. So at the start it was really rocky, but along the way, as you find your rhythm, I think you'll get better at it. And this is the thing, right? Soft skills. Going back again, time management. You don't just learn it in a classroom and then boom, you're the master at it. No, you have to actually get into the thick of it, learn it, experience it, and then along the way, then you'll get better and better. Even until now, in my job, investment banking is one of the most hectic jobs in the world, I think. Every 5 minutes you'll get new requests from someone out of the blue. So you have to manage your time, and all of this actually helped me in my current job as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while having a good time management ya, kita juga dengar Indra sharing. Sometimes when you really cannot, you need help, right? When you
Yes.
really need help, you really need to know how to ask for help. Ya, jangan sampai burn down gitu ya. Ya, dan it will affect your performance, it will affect the team performance karena
Correct.
kita bekerjanya sebagai tim ya. Jadi kalau satu orang yang down nanti semuanya langsung down. Right, so I think there is another skill that kita juga harus pelajari ya teman-teman, di mana ya memang time management is very important. Bukan saja waktu kuliah, tapi nanti di dunia pekerjaan. I think Indra and my team here can also agree ya, time management during working life is very important. But at the same time, know when you need a break, know when you say that okay, you need assistance, when you need help from your other colleagues or from your supervisor, gitu. Okay, so Indra, maybe any points that you want to share further with our students, our junior students here, about how they can be successful while in school, nanti di kuliah mungkin.
Yeah. Kalau dari saya sih, saya rasa yang if there's one piece of advice that's most important, I would say it's be open-minded and talk to people. Karena ya bisa aja kita belajar dari kelas kan. The book says you need to do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
That's just the book, right? If you talk to people that's expert at it, they may say, "Oh, don't do B, just go do A, and then go straight to C." There's maybe there's a better way to do it. They have been doing it, and just be open-minded. Don't be rigid. When you're too rigid, you cannot adapt to change. And in this environment, let's say later on when you work, it's every day is different. You may plan your day to do certain things, but the day will end up different than what you imagined when you start. So I think that's, I would say, what you should be doing as well in your university. Be open-minded, as you can see, right? At the start, I was determined to be an economist. I just want to learn economics, and then somewhere along the line become a professor. But no, my journey took 180 degrees. Kalau di Indo bilang banting setir. Took a really different path. That if you ask me in 2015 why be in investment banking, I'll probably say no. But here I am, being open-minded. Just keep talking to people, learning from them. Because learning from people is always better than learning from books. You can learn from the books, so that when you talk to people, you don't really blank out. You have at least good foundation. But always talk to people. Always talk to your seniors. Always learn from them, because they have had far more experience that you may have, right? And then when you learn from them, you learn what they have done. You can follow them, or you can do you can improve on what they have done. That's your value add as the new generation, right? If for example, a team or organization do the same thing over and over again, what you'll find is that company may go bankrupt or may fail. Case in point, Blockbuster versus Netflix. They keep doing what they do. Netflix keep innovating. Do you see Blockbuster now? No. You only see Netflix.
Okay, I think that is a very, very useful advice ya dari Indra. Sometimes we plan for something, but God has a better plan for us. Okay, thank you so much, Indra, for this very inspiring and useful insights of your journey, of your life journey, of both at the education level and also your life experience. I think this has helped you, and very proud that you have gone through all this, experience-nya sampai bisa digunakan di kerjaan sekarang. Is relevant, I think. I think whatever that you've gone through is very relevant to what you are doing in your job. Okay, baik. Mungkin di sini kita ada pertanyaan dari teman-teman.